I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema, where we focus on the film, and today I'm going to cover all of my top 10 best first-time watches that I watched in 2023. These are not 2023 releases or my top 10 of 2023, but the movies that I finally watched for the first time that I did not get to see before from older releases. And I love to see what your list looks down in the comments below. What movies did you watch for the very first time that you were just really excited about and rated high on your list of movies you finally got to see? So coming in at number 10, we have The Kid, one where I was a big surprise. I'm getting into Charlie Chaplin movies that I just really enjoyed. This one, it's really authentic, it's really funny, it's a silent period film, but it does really execute the period well, and Charlie Chaplin and his character he's creating that makes it a comedy, and it has all the right beats, all the right quippy notes that makes it hilarious, while also having emotion with all of the ways they're going about following this kid that's kind of left on his doorstep and having to raise this kid, trying to get it back to his mother, and what he has to do, and all the little beats that goes along the way. That's not very long movie considerably for what you've seen of movies today, and yet it nails all the right beats at the right moments. And coming in at number 9, we have One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest, one that I've been really trying to find. It finally caved and found it on a DVD, and because the Blu-ray is way too expensive. And so this one was quite fun, quite quippy, with all the right psychology notes that I do enjoy studying that sort of note, and going into this different mental stability hospital that goes over and respectfully goes over ideas that is disrespectful. Obviously, it's going into an older age of psychology that you're not really knowing as much about psychology versus today's world, and so some things are mistreated, but there's a bit of fun to be had with this film, as well as heavy emotions as they're going over the mistreatment of patients that have mental instabilities, and just the way they go about that, and having Jack Nicholson giving such a great performance, bringing in a great supporting cast that builds up some great chemistry between each and every one of the characters. It adds so much emotion to the cast and to the film as a great narrative. And coming in at number 8, we have Heat. Now, this was one on a favorites films list from John Carlos on the Merc with the Movies from Instagram. And so I was diving into more of his favorite films, and I just highly enjoy this police detective story, what they're going about, and the different meetups that they had with the villain and the criminal and the police officers, what they were going about. It was just really fun. It was a 3-hour fest that still lived up. Michael Mann had great directing with this one, and the different heists and what they all had to do brought up the heat into this story that really elevated me to put this high on this list. And coming in at number 7, we have Failsafe, one that I just highly enjoyed for the nature of this president, that things mess up. There's attack on sending to this one country that they send missiles on accident. They're trying to stop it. They try and send ships to stop it, but it's basically impossible to stop these nukes they accidentally sent over. And so there's a threat and communication with that other country versus the US and the country, and they're trying to make a deal. All of the different narrative elements that go along make this elevated to a whole another level of thrilling, and just what they do works well. And that very ending, the note that ends it off on, is just unexpected for what you were typically going for. And I believe Sidney Lumet is the director, and he delivers once again on another great narrative coming off of 12 Angry Men. And so this is another one that I highly recommend if you have not got to see. And coming in at number 6, we have Kota, which is going into children with deaf parents, and just the passion that this child has for music, wanting to go to college, going into music, and the passion she has for that is very inspiring, except the parents can't really feel and appreciate all she's going into, and so the different dynamics they go into with that is very interesting and very emotional, and an Apple TV Plus original that it just really stands out for its period. I missed a couple of years back, and I'm finally glad that I got to watch it and get to experience the emotions and what she has to go through to try and translate her love for music to her parents that can't directly comprehend and feel or listen to the music that she is able to create from her passion. And coming in number 5, we have American Beauty. Now, this is one that I love for Kevin Spacey having great performance and all the great actors as well, actresses, and the way they go about it is very perverse in some ways, but the way it's still treated in a proper manner that makes it really good for and deserving of the Best Picture winner it had. And the way they go about it is just very interesting, well-told, well-paced for the narrative they're going after, and becomes that much more compelling because of the performances, the surprises at the end, and just all of the dynamics you have with the chemistry between the cast of characters. And coming in at number 4, we have Isle of the Dogs, a Wes Anderson pick that I finally got into more of his picks, and I do enjoy this one unexpectedly more than I expected. Just this dog that's stranded on an island and all of these other dogs that were left there beforehand, and getting to understand the experiments of what they were doing, the sort of stranded there and why they were stranded there, getting that different dynamic, and then have a fun, different, quippy type of cast that they're bringing in there, the talking dogs, the great cast that comes along with that, and then this boy as well that really brings like a revolution of these dogs as they try and free them, and the countries are trying to block them out, but just the humor is so dry, and yet it becomes something that I love from Wes Anderson. The pacing, the subtleness of what they're doing with that sort of comedy works all the better for me in the end. And before we go into my top 3, I'm going to give a couple honorable mentions. We got Seven Samurai, Modern Times, and A New Nightmare from Wes Craven, the Nightmare on Elm Street. I really did love that reboot after all. But coming in at number 3, we have American History X, another one from Merc with the Movies from Instagram favorite movies list, and I highly enjoyed what this had to offer. I had nothing or any expectations going into this film. I knew very little about what it was about, and it was just a bold film. What they're going after, this sort of strong and outrageous look into this man that's sort of like into the Nazis, and what they're going after with that. The dynamic between the characters, the performances, Edward Norton, all of the people that follow up with him, and the following he has, and then what he has to go through his prison, and the different narrative beats that makes it a little out of order, still plays the pacing quite well, and just one of the big highlight scenes that I cannot spoil really hits a gut punch still, and one of the big traumatizing scenes to this day that I've seen from film. It's just one you gotta see for how heavy it is. It's a bit bold and grotesque for what it's going after, so it may not be for everyone, but altogether the way it's crafted, it makes it something that's really well-rounded to say. And coming in number 2, we have The Lovers from Isabel Jacobs, one that I'm really starting to appreciate as a director. I need to see more of his films, but The Lovers was something that it had the vibe and look of Ordinary Love, which is one of my favorite films of the last decade, and this one just... it had the right vibe based on the cover and the picture and the trailers that I've seen, And going into it, I was concerned I was overhyping it just by the vibe it was giving off. And yet, while it has a completely different narrative than Ordinary Love, it really pulled all the heartstrings, all the right notes, all the right pacing measures that felt like that dry sense of love and realness to the surreality that this film is giving off. And it yet pulled everything off in a way I didn't expect, and had all the right lovely notes, the right heartstring notes that made me emotional and really made an impact by the end of the film. Just the way it go about everything, there's something that I can't quite describe why I love it, but because of the different notes of how it pulls off this acting, this surreality to film, it just ended up working and came off as a huge surprise. And coming in at number 1, we have Cinema Paradiso. This was one I had high hopes for because it's about a boy that loves filmmaking and gets into the cinema. And so I was kind of worried that some expectations for it was gonna be making me a little disappointed with all the high ratings and highly rated reviews. But it still turned off at the end of the day a really grand film that worked super well for me. The way they did the pacing, I believe I watched the extended cut of this film, and so it just performed so miraculously. The passion, the love, and the different beats, it went into different areas I wasn't expecting emotionally, and making me smile for the appreciation for film and old cinema and the movie theater, what we go to movies for. And so it's just very fitting, but still my personal choice that actually worked out for me to put it as my number 1 first time watch of 2023. So that's just all my picks for first time watches of 2023, and I'd love to know what movies you watched for the very first time in 2023 that worked really well for me, for you. If you want to include any of the new 2023 movies that work just as well, go ahead, share your list, share your love for movies down in comments below, and let's talk cinema together. And go do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.